What's good, everyone? Anderson Emerald here, and today we are talking about the Silesia Diamond League going down this Saturday all the way out in Poland. And we got to be honest, some of these fields are basically world championship final fields, like high quality across the board in the sprints, the hurdles, and the jumps that we'll talk about here as well. So let's dive right in. I think the race that everyone has their eye out for is the men's 100-meter dash. This is, again, basically a world championship quality field, world championship final field, missing just like, I don't know, Oblique Seville. He's like the only guy missing. You have Kishane Thompson. You have Noah Lyles. So the first time that Noah and Kishane are racing since the Olympic final last year. You have Kenny B, who just ran 9.7 to win USA's. You have Akeem Blake, right, who got third place at Jamaican Trials. You have Courtney Lindsay, who got second place at USA Championships. Trayvon Bromell, who got fourth place at USA's, just missing the team. Christian Coleman, who ran 9.86. Akani Simbine, who has been dominating this year. And then, of course, you know, shout out to Oliveira. But listen, this field is absolutely stacked. Now, setting the stage, I'm going to say actually here at first, I'm not too concerned about time. In a race like this, I don't care if they run 9.7s or if they run 10 flats. What I'm concerned about and what I'm watching in this field is how people, specifically the people who are going to the World Championships, are going to finish relative to other athletes. Why? Because everyone is here. Outside of Oblique Seville and maybe let's see, you know, like outside of Zarna, like everyone is here. And because Noah Lyles and Kishane Thompson are racing for the first time since the Olympic Games, and they're coming in kind of like at two different points relative to what they've done this year, I'm just curious on how every athlete is going to finish relative to each other. Noah Lyles, he dealt with injuries early this year and had a relatively late start, but he jumped right back into the thick of things. Ran 19.8 at the Monaco Diamond League, beating out Silesia Boho. Went to the London Diamond League, finished second to Oblique Seville, but he went to USA's and got the win ahead of Kenny B at running 19.63. Now, this is his first race post USA's, and he's running in a high quality field. I'm wondering how is he going to do against Kishane Thompson, because Kishane Thompson has been operating on all cylinders in 2025. He's only lost one single race, which was the Shanghai Diamond League, finishing second place to Akani Simbine. But since then, he has been winning race after race after race. He, of course, has run 9.75 seconds, but he's won the Prefontaine Classic. He recently won the Hungary Continental Tour. Like, he is going out on a very, very, you know, strong campaign of consistency through 2025. So two guys approaching things from very different aspects. And like, I guess there's two things I'm thinking about. One, I expect Kishane Thompson to get the win here because he has been consistent through the year. He's been racing everyone. He's literally taken down almost everyone in his field outside of Kenny B and Noah Lyles in the 100. And of course, you know, Courtney Lindsay as well. But he's been able to show great consistency through the year. But depending on how close Noah is to Kishane from my perspective, or if Noah gets the win, that may change the dynamics or tip the pendulum a little bit going into Worlds. Now, what's interesting is they are going to be racing at the Lausanne Diamond League next weekend as well, and that's going to have, you know, Oblique Seville in the race. So this is kind of one step towards a larger story leading into the World Championships. So I don't know, it'll be very interesting, but obviously I'm thinking that Kishane is probably going to get the win. But then you have to add in Kenny B. This is going to be Kenny B's first Diamond League 100-meter race in his entire career. And after running 9.79, and this is going to be his only race, you know, before the World Championships, what can we expect from him? I don't expect for him to win. I don't expect for him to run 9.7 again, but it's going to be very telling if he's not able to finish in the top 3 or even top 4, whatever it may be, in this race. Because coming off USA's and you want to be a true 100-meter threat, you got to compete with these guys. Now, this is a one-off race, so it's, you know, just one part of the larger story and landscape, but Kenny B, this is his first Diamond League race. He has to show up here. But then, how is it that someone like Akani is going to do? Akani dominated the early season, but took some time off, took a step back at the London Diamond League, also at the Hungary Continental Tour. Is he going to be able to start jumping back into the conversation and get a little more competitive? That's going to be a question. Trayvon Bromell and Christian Coleman, both of them lost the 100 meters at USA's. Trayvon 4th, Christian 5th, and now they don't have a path to the World Championships because Noah already has a wild card. They're just running to continue on their seasons. Are one of them going to be able to kind of spoil? Can Trayvon run 9.8 once again? Can Christian, can he run 9.8 once again? What is it going to look like for either of them? And then the rest of the guys, Courtney Lindsay, how is he going to fare? He's going to the world champs in the 100. Same thing like Akeem Blake. I think both of them, their eyes are on being competitive so they can, prove that they should be in the final at the world championship. So just some high level thoughts, about this men's 100. This is stacked, man. But remember, first step before we get to the Lausanne Diamond League next weekend, which is going to be the second step. So a couple Diamond Leagues that we do have going on, men's 100 is stacked. But that's not it, y'all. We got the women's 100 meters as well. This one is stacked as well. Now, we just saw a very strong women's 100 at the Hungary Continental Tour, but now we got Melissa Jefferson-Wooden. She's in this field here. We got Sha'carri Richardson in this field. Both of the Clayton twins, both of them in this field. Dean Asher-Smith, her, I think first, 100 meter Diamond League race after she's, moved back to London, apparently left Coach Flo. Check out the full video breakdown that I did. You have Jason Sears, you have Iwa Soboda, you have Marie-José Talou, who just won the Hungary Continental Tour. Three things that I'm keeping an eye out for. Well, I guess there's four things, but first off, Melissa Jefferson-Wooden, how is she going to fare in her first race after USA's? Will she still be just as dominant as she's been all season outside of the really close finish with Julian Alfred? Or will she kind of be taking a step back to kind of reset herself as she leads up to the world champs? She's going to be doing this race. I think she's also running the 200 at the Brussels Diamond League. So she'll be in a few different races between now and then and Worlds. But that's the first thing I'm looking at. How does she actually fare? I expect her to get the win, no problems considering the field. Next, Sha'carri Richardson. Is she going to continue her steady improvement in 2025? She started off running 11.4. She dropped down to 11.1. She got down to 11.07 at USA's in the heats. And now, will she be able to get down to sub 11 if we do see some good conditions in this race here? That's my second question. I don't expect her to, finish to win the race or finish even top 2 or anything like that. I'm just looking for progression from Sha'carri Richardson, considering her target has always been Worlds. She already has a wild card, so she didn't have to peak for USA's. That's my next thing. Third thing, Tia and Tina Clayton. I guess it's kind of split where Tina Clayton, she just came second place at the Hungary Continental Tour. She's won the Jamaican Trials running 10.81. Is she going to remain consistent in the sub 11 range and keep her in that conversation, for the podium? So we'll see. Tia Clayton, she's dealt with injuries, and this may be her first race since she got injured at the Jamaican Trials in the 100 meter final. Is she going to be able to show up here? She still has a path to get onto the world team in the 100 if she wins the Diamond League final. Can she actually do that? I don't know, but this is going to be a stepping stone towards that. And then finally, the last thing I'm looking at is Dean Asher-Smith and Marie-José Talou. Talou does very well in the one-off races. Unfortunately, since 2019, she hasn't gotten on the podium at World Champs or Olympics. Is she going to be able to maintain the momentum that she's been building and carry that through to the World Championships? Will this be another stepping stone towards that? So just keeping an eye out for consistency. And then Dean Asher-Smith. Is it really that, listen, she ran well at the national championships for Great Britain. Is she going to be able to still do very well there? She ran 22.1 seconds in the 200. Can she, surpass her season's best here? What is she going to do? So a couple storylines in this women's 100. Again, I'm not too concerned about the time here because it's so hard to predict the conditions. But what I'm looking at is how each of these women, do finish relative to each other and the storylines that I just kind of outlined. Now, that was, 2 races. I already spent like a whole lot of time talking about those. Let's move over to the women's 200. This has got a little watered down. I forget. Julian Alfred was either supposed to be in the 100 or the 200, but regardless, she's not competing. We will see Shericka Jackson. Now, this race, women's 200, has a few different storylines, but Shericka Jackson, she just ran 11 seconds in the 100 at the Hungary Continental Tour, finishing 3rd place behind Marie-José Talou and Tina Clayton. The 200 is something that everyone has their eyes on. I don't think anyone is expecting Shericka to get back to 21.4 or anything like that. But is she going to get into the realm of sub 22? 21.9, 21.8. Like, is she going to get back into that realm to prove that she is truly competitive? It's going to take that likely to get on the podium, and she's doubling. So what are we going to see from Shericka here? And then you have a whole host of women who are very much going to be competitive in the field. And some of them may beat Shericka as well. I'd say it's an open field. You have Daryl Nita. You have Favor O'Feely. You have Amy Hunt, who's been on fire this year. Brittany Brown, who's in the hunt for a Diamond League spot, a wild card to the World Championships in the 200. Finished 4th at USA's. Maya McCoy, more of a 100 sprinter, but she has some chops. Jenna Prandini. So very strong field across the board. but I think all eyes are on Shericka Jackson and what kind of form is she going to display here in the 200, considering she wants to get on the podium at the World Championships again this year. So let's move over though. Women's 400 meter hurdles. Now, this race was super high quality beforehand, but now it got a little watered down. This was basically the World Championship final, but we lost a few names. You have Femke Bol competing here. You have Jasmine Jones. You have Andronette Knight. You have Cheyenne Salmon. You have Savannah Sutherland. You have Gianna Woodruff. You have Emma Zapaletova. Apologize for the pronunciation. So you're looking at all these women who have gone, except for Cheyenne Salmon, but all these women have dipped under the 54-second barrier this year, although Cheyenne has run 52 seconds in her career. All these women are extremely competitive. Previously, we did have Dalilah Muhammad and we had Anna Cockrell in this race, but seems like they pulled out. Maybe they were kind of working on things. They both trained together, so maybe their coach was just like, let's get some extra training in. But eyes are on Femke Bol. I mean, she's going to win this race. She's a class of the field. She just won the Hungary Continental Tour running 52 seconds, 52.5, and she was 2 seconds ahead of the field. And Jasmine Jones was in that race. But how are the Jamaicans going to match up? Savannah Sutherland, she was supposed to run at that Hungary meet, but she pulled out. So hopefully she's all good and hopefully she shows up on the line. But Femke Bol, she is a favorite for the gold medal, and we'll see how things do kind of play out after that. But listen, this got a little watered down. It was almost a World Championship final quality, but this was a good field overall. After that, we have the women's 400 meters. Now, this is going to be the next time that we'll get a chance to see Marlene Paulino going up against Saweed Nasser. Both of them have been going head to head all throughout 2025. We've seen it literally since Grand Slam track in Kingston, right, where Nasser ran the world lead of 48.67 seconds. Last time they raced was the Paris Diamond League, where Paulino got the edge running 48.81 to Nasser's 48.87, I think, or 48.84. But regardless, they've been going head to head. And I mean, I don't see a reason to say that Paulino is going to give up the ground to Saweed Nasser this time. Nasser, yes, super consistent, but Paulino has always just been a step ahead, and it's going to be hard to say that Paulino won't take the win. But it'll just be interesting to see if they do push each other to some strong times. Like, do they run 48 seconds again, or do they drop back and maybe just run 49, drop back and run 49? But those two, of course, in my opinion, clear ahead of the rest of the field. Now, behind them, you do have some interesting storylines. Natalia Bukovetska, she's going to be here. She's been making steady progress throughout the year. Bronze medalist from the Olympics last year. She's at a somewhat slower start to the season, but she's already run 48 seconds by this time last year, but World Champs is a little bit later. She's in the mix. Amber Anning, coming off winning the UK Championships. She's, of course, in the mix. Alexis Holmes just missed out on Team USA, but she's on the relay. She's, of course, had some setbacks that she dealt with, so, she's getting back into form and everything. Lieke Klaver just ran a season's best of 50.11 out at the Hungary Continental Tour. You have Martina Veal, you have Sade Williams. So strong field across the board, but it's Paulino and Nasser, then everyone else right behind. Now, women's 100-meter hurdles. So this will be an interesting race because we're going to see the women's 100-meter hurdles run heats and a final. So you have a plethora of different names, and plethora literally means every single top athlete in the world. Tobi Amusan, world record holder. Aaliyah Armstrong, right? She just missed out on the team at USA's. Devon Charlton, world record holder indoors in the 60. Christina Clemens also missed out on Team USA. You have Kenny Harrison. She is in the hunt for a wild card spot to the World Champs by way of the Diamond League final. If Grace Stark, if Masai Russell or Kenny Harrison, if any of them win, or Alicia Johnson, then Kenny Harrison is on the team. Karika Hill, she just missed out on a spot to the World Champs for Jamaica. Alicia Johnson just made the team for USA. You have Renee Jones, you have Tania Marshall, you have Akira Nugent, who I think is a strong gold medal contender, along with Tobi Amusan as well. Masai Russell, very strong. I think Masai, Akira, Toby, they're all in the mix here. Megan Tapper, Pia Skrzydowska, Nadine Visser, Danielle Williams, defending world champ. I think the only woman missing here is Grace Stark. Grace Stark is the only one who I would say, all right, they're not competing here, but this is a stacked field. Impossible to predict who's going to win literally anytime you're running the hurdles. But shout out to all the women just showing up. Remember, this is heats and final, so you'll have 2 rounds for everyone to compete in. Now, last on the track before I take a look at the 2 field events is the men's 400-meter hurdles. There's going to be the return of Karsten Warholm. He hasn't competed since the, I think, Stockholm Diamond League. He won the Diamond League in China, and then with the 300-meter hurdles. He then won the Oslo 300-meter hurdles, broke the world record there again. Then he got third place, I think, at the Stockholm Diamond League behind Rai Benjamin and Alison Dos Santos. But I mean, he's of course the third best in the world this year. And of course, he's, I guess third best in the world this year. I say that because Rai Benjamin and Alison Dos Santos have been more consistent. They've both run 46 seconds this year. Warholm has only run 47.28. Now, Samba, he did run 47.09, his second fastest time ever, only behind his 46.98, which I consider being kind of the jumpstart of this era of 400 meter hurdling. But Samba, he's been dealing with injuries since 2019 and everything like that. So little mixed bag. Karsten Warholm, though, he is a favorite in this field. And then you have a whole bunch of other guys who are in the mix between Trevor Bassett, who got injured before USA's, Rashawn Clark, right, who got fourth place in 2023 at the World Champs, Caleb Dean, Chris Robinson just made the team, Ezekiel Nathaniel just, finished, he got the NCAA title, ran 47.9. So listen, entire field is stacked across the board. What is Karsten Warholm going to be able to do? Can he run 46 seconds to kind of step things back up and get into the conversation with Rai Benjamin and Alison Dos Santos once again? I mean, not to say he's out of the conversation, but, they seem to be a step ahead of him in 2025. Now, let's just quickly take a look at the women's long jump. I guess there's some interesting women who are competing here in the sense that you have, so I'll say that Jasmine Moore, I'm not sure if she's going to be trying to get the Diamond League wild card. I don't think she's confirmed it or denied it. She didn't make the team in the long jump. She made the team in the triple jump, but depending on what her coach says, she may try and get the wild card to actually double at World Champs, or maybe she just focuses on the triple jump, right? Who knows? But interesting storyline to follow there. Malaika Mihambo, previous Olympic champion. She got silver last year to Tara Davis Woodhall. So she's going to be in the mix. I think Malaika Mihambo, Tara Davis Woodhall is the favorite. Malaika Mihambo and Larissa Yappuccino are probably the next two that I'm keeping an eye out for. Yappuccino has been so consistent on the circuit for the past couple years, since 2023, but she hasn't been able to show up at the World Championships or the Olympic Games like myself, like I've actually expected her to. So as she kind of does make progress, already jumped 706 this year, can she finally translate that into a medal? Claire Bryant, world indoor champion. Quenisha Burks. You have Monet Nichols. Monet Nichols also is another one who could go for the wild card. She didn't make the team for USA. She can be in the wild card conversation. Akeelia Smith for Jamaica. So very, pretty strong field. And shout out to Lex Brown. She jumped 703 this year, kind of flying under the radar. Of course, didn't make Team USA, but listen, you can never doubt someone who's jumped 7 meters. So shout out to the women's long jump. But overall, that is the Silesia Diamond League coming up this Saturday in Poland. High quality fields across the board. That men's 100, the men's 100 is stacked. Very, very stacked. So we're going to see how that actually does play out. But let me know what you think. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Always appreciate y'all. Thanks for watching.